everyone, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Esther, and in today's tutorial I'll be teaching you guys how to cut and sew a bustier dress with an underbust, corset and a Basque waistline. So let's dive into the tutorial. For this tutorial I'll be making use of about 3.5 yards of African print or Ankara and a black crepe. I'll be using the black crepe for the waist and for my sleeve. I've folded the pattern paper into two and also marked my starting line. So the first thing I will do now is to mark my bust point, my underbust line and the waistline, and I will also repeat that on the other side and then mark a straight line across. So I'll be labeling it breast point, underbust line and waistline, and I'll also label the starting line, which is my shoulder line. For the purpose of this draft, I'll be making use of neck width of 3 inches and neck depth of 3 inches as well, and I'll be making use of my French curve to make the round neckline. So right now I will go ahead and take half of my shoulder measurement plus half an inch. Okay, half of the shoulder measurement plus half an inch, and I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Right now I'll go ahead and mark my armhole measurement divided by 2, and that for me is 7.5 inches, which I've marked, and I will be making a line across, and that will serve as my chest line. So for the armhole depth, I will just mark a straight line and divide the measurement into 2. Okay, and this is just to make my armhole curve, and I'll go in by half an inch and also take my bust measurement divided by 4 and use the French curve to just connect the points from the bust measurement and connect it to the half inch which I went in by. So this is my armhole curve. So to take the dart now, I will be going in from the center with my nipple to nipple distance divided by 2, and I will be marking that at the bust line, the under bust line and at the waistline, and I will just use my ruler to connect it. So right now I will be dividing my shoulder slope into 2, and so at that point I will just connect it up to the nipple distance which I've marked. All right, so to take my dart now, I will be going out by 1/4 inch. Okay, if this is for a plus size, you can make it 1.5 or 2 inches. So for me, I'll be using 1/4 inch, and I will be going in by 1/4 inch. You can make this half an inch, but I want it to be 1/4 inch, and I'll just use my ruler to connect it. So at the bust point line, I'm going to go down by half an inch. This is to make the dart to feel relaxed on the bust. Okay, so I'll just use my French curve to connect the points together. In order to mark out my neckline, I really do not want my bust to be revealing at all, and so from my shoulder line I will be going down by 5.5 inches. Okay, so I'll be drawing a line across. So to take the dart for the upper part from my neckline, which I've drawn now, and the line connecting from the shoulder line to the bust line, I'll just go in by half an inch towards the center and go out by 1 inch towards the armhole curve. Okay, so right now I'll just connect the points using my French curve to the bust line. You can see how it looks like. So this point will be cut out because it's our dart. All right, I want a sweetheart kind of neckline. I'm just going to go in by 3/4 inch, and I'll just use my French curve to make that sweetheart neckline. You can see how it looks like. Okay, so we are almost done. It's just to take the horizontal measurements right now. I already marked my bust line. Okay, so the 1.5 inches I have over there, I'll be taking it on the bust line seam allowance, which is 2 inches. So for the under bust line, I will take my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also mark the 1.5 inches which I've used for the dart and the seam allowance of 2 inches. So for the waistline, I will also do the same. Take my waist circumference divided by 4 plus the dart allowance and the seam allowance, and I'll just use my French curve to connect the points together. So I will label the center front and the other part side front, and right now I'll just be cutting it out. So this is what I have after cutting it out. Okay, so we have the neckline area, the center front, and the side front. So I'm going to be cutting out the underbust line from the half length line, okay, and I'll be making use of paper tape to hold the sides together, and this is how it is. Do not let it overlap, okay, just tape it together like I've done. So I've cut out a piece of pattern paper, okay, you can see that it's wider a bit than the piece which I have already, and I'll just use the paper tape to join it together and ensure it is also not overlapping. Okay, so right now I'll just fold it into two, following the folded parts we have already. So from the lower part, okay, I'm just going to go down by 5 inches. All right, you know, I already added my seam allowance, okay, of 2 inches. So right now I will just divide that point into two and come down by 1 inch. Okay, this is actually not necessary since I already have my allowance. Okay, so from the point where the allowance ended, I'll just connect the point up to that 5 inches which we have marked. Okay, you can see that it will still pass through the 1 inch which I came down with, so that is really not necessary. Okay, so right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So this is what the Basque waistline looks like, okay, and you can see the pieces together. Now the next thing I will do is to cut out my neckline. All right, initially I told you that the round neck I drew, I wasn't going to make use of it, so I'll be cutting out something that looks like Queen Anne neckline. From the neckline which I have, I'll just connect it up to that line that divided the shoulder line into two, and that's what I'll be cutting out and use for my shoulder. All right, so right now I'll just go ahead and cut out the fabrics, and this is what it looks like after cutting it out. All right, so for the side front and the center front, I cut out my African print with it, and for the Basque waistline and the shoulder, I used my black crepe. Okay, so for the part labeled side front, I added half an inch to the point where I'll be joining it with the center front. For the sides, I didn't add any allowance. For the center front piece, I added half an inch to the sides, the upper part and the lower part as well. So for the shoulder line, I also added half an inch to the upper part and the lower part. For the Basque waistline, I added half an inch to the upper part and to the lower part. I've also cut out the lining for each of the pieces. For the bustier area, I've ironed out hairstay to the fabric. The lining I'm using is actually a thick one, so I'll go ahead and cut out the breast pad, okay, for the bustier part. This is also called wadding, okay, so just cut out the breast pad like I'm doing. All right, so I've also gone ahead to do the same for the center. Ensure the gummy part is the one facing the underneath, okay, so that you'll be able to iron it on it. So this is the hairstay which I've cut out and the breast pad. I've ironed the breast pad on the fabric, so I'll just be using my office pin to hold the points where I'll be joining it. So join it with the half inch which you have left. You can see how it is. So I'll go ahead and notch it like I'm doing and trim off the excess, okay. I just want it to feel relaxed, okay, so I'll go ahead and do the same for the other side. So this is how the bustier looks like, and I will just trim off the excess we have at the upper part as well. So this is how the bustier looks like. For the Basque waistline, I've ironed ST on it, and this is what it looks like. I'll just go ahead and divide the measurement I have here into two. I will divide it into two equal halves, mark the point, and I will be connecting it to the point where I have my V shape. So I'll just connect the points together. So from the side now, I'll be marking 3 inches from the middle point or the center point towards the side. I will repeat the same at the lower part and use the ruler to also connect it together. For the other side now, I'll be using 2.5 inches instead of the 3 inches. So I will also mark the same for the other side, 2.5 inches at the upper part and at the lower part, and I will also use the ruler to connect it together. So this will serve as the lines where I'm going to be attaching my boning. So since my boning measures about 1/2 inch, so the boning channels I made were about 1 inch. Okay, so I folded with 1/4 inch at the both sides, so that measures together 1 inch. So the width of the boning you have will determine the width of the channels you will also make. Okay, so I will be showing you guys how to make the boning channels on the crepe. I will run a stitch down the channel this way. I already ironed it out, and this makes it easy for me. I'll just follow where I ironed out and fold the other side as well. You know that the boning measures 1/2 inch, so I already have my 1/2 inch in between, and run a stitch down that other fold. Okay, so I'll be running a top stitch on the first side. So I'll repeat the same on the other boning channels. Make your first stitch and fold the other side, okay, and make a stitch down, and also top stitch the first side which you initially joined. So I've attached all the boning channels, and this is what it looks like. So right now I'll go ahead and join the bustier with the Basque waistline, which I already have, and this is what it looks like after joining. So right now I'll place the lining of the shoulder line on the right side of the crepe and just sew at the side like I've done. Okay, you can see how it is. I've also ironed it out. You can also top stitch as well. So right now I'll place it on the neckline and pin it down with my office pin. I've also gone ahead to join the lining the exact way I've joined the fabric. Okay, so I'll just place it on the neckline like so, okay, and join it together. So this is what it looks like after joining. I've also top stitched. This is the shoulder line, so I'll return it back and join the sides as well to turn it inside out, and this is what it looks like after joining. Right now I'll go ahead and join the upper piece now with the skirt. Okay, I already made my skirt and have a notch at the center point. Remember that we came down by 5 inches the other time to mark the Basque waistline. I'll go ahead and draw a straight line like I'm doing up to 5 inches. So I'll place the Basque waistline on the skirt like I'm doing and just mark the straight line, okay, to make that V shape, all right, which we already have on the Basque waistline, and I'll just mark it on the skirt like I'm doing. Okay, so you can see that we have the V shape already, and I'll be coming up by half an inch. Remember that I'll be joining it, so the half inch which I'm marking at the upper part now will serve as the joining allowance. Okay, so I'll just use the chalk to mark the half inch around the V shape. For my boning channel, I'll go ahead and insert the boning into the channel like I've done, but I'll be coming up by half an inch because I wouldn't want machine needle to hit the boning. So I'll measure the length of the boning channel I have and remove half an inch, which I'll be using for joining. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and insert it, and after inserting it, you can see that I have extra half inch which I'll be using to join. So I'll repeat the same, measure the boning channel I have and then measure it on the boning. All right, and then cut it out, insert it in the boning channel, and you will have half inch left. So now I'm done inserting the boning into all the channels, and I'll just go ahead and cut out the V shape I have on the skirt, and then I'll just notch the middle. Okay, so I've gone ahead to stitch the lower part as well. Okay, so for the skirt part now, I'll just fold the skirt into two, lay it on each other very well. Okay, you'll notice that I have excess at that point, and I will just go ahead and trim it off so that the skirt will be well laid on the upper part. So we have the basque waistline looking this way. Okay, so I'll go ahead and notch the basque waistline which I have at the top and join it with the skirt like so. Okay, the notches I've made we actually make it sit well on the skirt. So this is what the first joining looks like, and I'll place it the other way like so and also join it, and you can see how it looks. Okay, it looks so relaxed and beautiful on it. All right, so this is how to make the dress. So for the back piece, I've gone ahead to also join the upper piece and the lower piece, and this is the dart and this is the zipper allowance as well. So I'll place the front piece on the back piece and use the shoulder of the back piece which is lined to turn the shoulder of the front piece like I've done. Okay, so just stitch it together, stitch the side of the bodice and also attach the sleeve, and that brings us to the end of this tutorial. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please click on the like button if you liked the video, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are yet to do so, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.